Good feedback, all fixable. Here's the final pass with the reveal moved up, the repeated verb varied, the tone matched closing line, and the mid-script visualization added. The tide pool looks like nothing is happening. A mussel bed, glistening, silent, sealed shut against the world. Shells clamped tighter than a bank vault, built by 300 million years of evolution to withstand exactly this kind of attack. And yet within hours, that mussel will be empty. Not cracked, not crushed, emptied. Its insides dissolved into liquid and drawn away, while the shell remains locked shut, as if the creature inside simply vanished. The culprit is lying motionless a few feet away, and it looks almost decorative. 5 stiff arms, a leathery orange back, utterly harmless. It is a starfish. It has no blade, no venom, no jaw strong enough to matter. And the way it actually kills is stranger than fiction. This animal turns its own stomach inside out, pushes it through its mouth, and threads it into the gap of another creature's shell. What happens next is one of the strangest acts of predation on Earth, and by the end of this story, you will never look at a rock pool the same way again. Here's the part that should be impossible. The mussel's shell is sealed by a muscle strong enough to resist a force that would break bone. The starfish has nothing that looks remotely capable of winning this fight. What it has instead is hundreds of tiny hydraulic tube feet, powered by an internal water pumping system found nowhere else in the animal kingdom, and it uses them the way a team of climbers uses ropes, not to yank but to hold relentlessly for hours, sometimes the whole day. The mussel's muscle gets tired. The starfish's system does not, and it only needs a fraction of a millimeter. If you could shrink down to the size of that mussel, the attack would barely look like one, the shell parts by less than the width of a human hair. Then, in total darkness, something pale and glistening slides through the crack. No teeth, no bite, just a living membrane unfolding toward you. That membrane is the starfish's cardiac stomach, and once it's inside, it does something no jaw or tooth ever could. It begins dissolving the living animal from the outside in, flooding it with digestive enzymes before a single piece of it has ever been swallowed. There is no bite first, digestion later. The meal is liquefied before it is eaten at all. Only once the mussel has been reduced to a digestible broth does the starfish slowly draw its stomach back inside itself, leaving a shell so intact it could be mistaken for one that was never touched. Sit with that for a second. Imagine turning your own stomach out through your mouth, wrapping it around your dinner on the table, and beginning to digest that meal before it ever touches your tongue. For the starfish, this isn't extraordinary. It's simply how the tide goes out. And here's a detail that makes it even more unsettling. This animal has no brain, not a small one, none at all. Just a loose ring of nerves circling its mouth, with a nerve running down each arm. No command center, no decision maker. And yet it can sense a mussel's chemical trail drifting through seawater, choose it over other prey, coordinate hundreds of tube feet toward a single crack in a single shell, and hold that position for the better part of a day. An animal with no brain is quietly outperforming animals that have one. For a long time, scientists assumed starfish were minor players, slow scavengers mopping up scraps. That underestimates them badly. In the 1960s, ecologist Robert Payne tested it directly on the rocky shores of Washington state. He removed every starfish from a stretch of coastline and left everything else alone. Within a year, the ecosystem collapsed. Freed from their one major predator, mussels exploded across the rock, smothering the barnacles, algae, and dozens of other species that had lived there. One quiet predator, turning its stomach inside out on the tideline, had been holding the entire shoreline in balance. Payne called it a keystone species. Remove the keystone, and the arch comes down. That power came at a cost fishermen didn't understand. In the 19th century, oyster farmers watching their beds get hollowed-out treated starfish as vermin, hauling them up by the thousand, chopping them in half, and throwing them back to die. It rarely worked. Starfish can regenerate lost arms, and in some species, a single severed arm with a sliver of the central disc can regrow into an entirely new animal. Fishermen trying to kill their enemy were often multiplying it instead. But that keystone can also crack. Starting around 2013, scientists along the west coast of North America began recording something they'd never seen at this scale. Starfish developing lesions, arms twisting loose from their own bodies, tissue disintegrating within days. Sea star wasting disease went on to kill sea stars by the tens of millions, wiping out more than 20 species across thousands of miles of coast. One of the largest marine die-offs on record, with warming ocean temperatures strongly implicated as a contributing factor. Where the predator vanished, the mussels came back unchecked, replaying Payne's old experiment in real time, across an entire ocean instead of one stretch of shore. So the mussel bed that looked, at the start of this story, like nothing was happening, was never still at all. Somewhere beneath that silence, a slow hydraulic war was already underway, one for which evolution gave the mussel armor, and gave the starfish something stranger, the ability to eat you from the inside without ever taking you inside itself. It is easy to walk past a tide pool and see decoration, 5 orange arms, motionless on a rock. What is actually there is one of the ocean's quiet enforcers, holding a shoreline together one impossibly patient meal at a time. The next time you find one, look a little longer. It isn't resting, it's simply between meals, and the coastline around it, whether it knows it or not, depends entirely on that.